Hey, what's up guys? I'm Josh. This is the second Crinacle headphone that we're going to be looking at. The first one we looked at was a KZ. This one is going to be a Fiio and it's called the Eclipse. This is a Crinacle Fiio collaboration, obviously, and today we're going to be talking about it. This IEM was sent to me, but like always, all thoughts and opinions are my own. Okay, don't like this one as much. It's not as good to me as the KZ. I think that the KZ is actually a better headphone for about a third of the cost, but let's go ahead and break this down a little bit as to why. Okay, so let's talk about general fit and design. So this is, I would say, a typical Fiio product. It's reasonably well made. It doesn't really stand out as being particularly special in my opinion, but they do seem to last a long time on average. I do really enjoy this cable. It's kind of this double wide cable that seems to straighten out really nicely, terminating in a 3.5 millimeter right angle connector. Though the comfort on this is not made for me, man. This is a straight up uncomfortable IEM for my ears. I much prefer the fit of the previous KZ that we looked at. For that reason alone, this would be out of the running for me if I were to purchase this. But this is absolutely gonna be a personal and subjective thing. So your ears, this may work well for, but my ears is a no-go. Okay, so for sound quality, here is the pitch that the people that I would kind of recommend this for, and it seems like what the company was going for. If you want an engaging and fun sound and don't care about technicalities, this is probably gonna be a decent fit, though one of the problems with this sound signature at this price is that there are a ton of other headphones that do this sound signature, but those can often hit at significantly less prices. So this one I'm actually a little bit more critical of, gonna say the conclusion right now, I don't personally think that this particular one is worth the money. Tuning of it just seems to go a little bit overboard in some areas, so let's go ahead and talk about that. So bass response. That's the main selling point of this headphone. I wouldn't really look at it for mid-range or treble response. If you like a lot of powerful bass, you can get it with this headphone. However, like many of the other areas for technicality, this doesn't really perform super great here. It's very low, it's very deep, and it's very hard hitting, especially if you crank the volume up. This thing can really hit you with a pretty thumpy, solid bass. However, through the mid bass, it can be a little bit bloated and a little bit boxy, and I do find, though it hits 20 to 30 hertz, no problem, it is quite bloomy down there, and it's not super well controlled and well defined. It's hard to say if this is a property of the chassis itself, or if this is an actual tuning preference, or if it's just a limitation of the drivers in here. But yeah, it can definitely get a little bit over bloated down there. That isn't to say that some people don't like that. It's not my preference. I like strong, good bass, but I really value clarity and cleanliness over quantity, unless it gets too dry. But I like a nice balance of everything. This just leans a little bit too far for quantity and not far enough for quality. The mid-range is not really particularly notable, I don't find. The lower mids are kind of not super present. They get outshined quite a bit by the mid bass and the sub bass regions, and then it kind of procs up a little bit in the treble response, though not nearly as much as I anticipated it would. And the mid range does seem a bit absent on this headphone, which is kind of sad to see, I think. So treble response is quite interesting to me actually, because I figured it was going to be a super V-shaped headphone, but it's not as V-shaped as you might think. Not quite as sparkly in the top end. It doesn't have a resurgence of treble like you would typically be used to. This is kind of just a dark, brooding, muscly sounding headphone with a lot of bass and kind of dark treble and kind of retracted mid-range. I don't really feel like this is the full picture of a good V-shaped headphone. I think if you like V-shape, the KZs for a fraction of the cost are actually better than this. Upper regions of treble are really missing, so you don't really get this airier, spaced out sound to a lot of the more live open recordings that would typically sound very open. They don't really sound as open as with this IEM as I would prefer. The sound staging and imaging are really good, and that kind of plays into this side note that I want to talk about for a little bit here, which is like I guess it's a struggle that every reviewer has to come to terms with if they do it as a job, which is that you have to analyze things somewhat from a subjective point of view, somewhat from an objective point of view. At least that's how I choose to approach it. I try to mix in both and state where benefits and drawbacks are on both sides. Objectively, I don't really think this is a good performer. Subjectively, if I just listen to this, I enjoy my time a lot with it. I've been playing the new Witch Queen campaign from Destiny 2, and this is a fun headphone. The imaging and the sound staging is very engaging. The bass response is just fun. And if you're buying a headphone for just fun, I think that a lot of headphones, including this one, are probably worth it. And if I flew a lot or something and needed something that sealed relatively well and just was fun for gaming and music, this I think would be a great IEM. But on the technical side, I think it's got a lot of work to do. Quite frankly, I just think that the KC actually performed better. So yeah, subjectively, I find this a fun headphone. Objectively though, I don't think it quite performs where I would expect a $150 IEM to perform. Even at half price at $75, I think it would still be beaten by something like a Moondrop Aria, though it definitely has more sub bass, and if you're really into sub bass, this would probably be the one I would lean towards there. But I'd really like to see it about that price range. 150 bucks though, pretty steep for me. So far we're 1 for 1. So the KZs I really highly recommend, especially given the price point. And these I think I would skip. I do have a third IEM from Crinacle that the review will be coming out eventually, and I'll get to that. So if you'd like to see that, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.